Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to the series of books I should have read a long time ago, which have been desultorily chosen based on how I feel at any given moment of, deciding what I'm going to be reading next in this particular series. So, since I've been doing LOTR, we're on the last book of LOTR, The Return of the King, and this is the book that has all of the world building, or at least it has a significantly representative percentage of world building that that Tolkien sort of set himself to doing. And that's really where this book becomes impressive. Because here's the thing, it's not that this isn't, a good, rip-roaring, fun story. It's not that there isn't, massive... It's not that there isn't interesting things to say about the book's proper, and I have vague disquiet about the whole Saruman appearing in the Shire at the end, because on the one hand, not only does it wrap up a loose end that he had very deliberately created earlier, but it is in a way sort of a notion about the come down of Saruman that all he can do is take over the hobbits, which are sort of like just these peaceable people who are just totally uninterested in adventures and violence and stuff, and so yeah, he managed to take them over. And, it's speaking to his come down in power and in the world and all that kind of thing. But at the same time, it sort of feels like dragging the book out. That it's like Frodo gets back and the adventure isn't over and things just keep happening and stuff. It's... it's interesting. And I grant that that ending that my father has always declared, that the last line of this book, Sam saying he drew a deep breath, "Well, I'm back," he said. That speaks to the character of Sam as being in some ways the most important character in this book, because Sam is the true everyman in this book in a way that no one else is, because of course Aragorn, son of Arathorn, is, our king of kingly king people, and we have an elf and a dwarf, and those are both, things, and Boromir, while he was there, was, son of Steward of Gondor, and just short of being a prince in his own way, and Frodo has been chosen by capital D destiny, and, Peregrine Took and Meriadoc, that Pippin and Merry are... They have this onward cheer and adventuresome personalities that are very, very different from Sam, who spends the entire book that he is sticking to Frodo because this is his choice and the man he has chosen to follow and so on. But Sam ultimately is not somebody who wants anything except to be at home with his garden and possibly Rosie, because, he likes Rosie. But Sam is very much just like the ordinary guy who just keeps on chugging. And it's, it makes him that important representative character in a way that none of the others, even the other three hobbits, are. So there's all that stuff that you can say about it. But the most interesting thing for Tolkien is the world building, is the fact that you have somebody who did not merely say, I'm going to create a world with this geography and these and these magic things and these sorts of creatures in it. This is someone who sat down and, Appendix A starts Annals of the Kings and Rulers. He has an actual history stretching back thousands upon thousands of years. This first age, second age, third age, fourth age, that this book is set at the end of the third age, but you have all of this stuff that goes into it, all of this history that he has written, that he has developed, that he has designed to underlie it, that he has, these lists of kings and the orders in which they came, for, people after people and group after group, and how Gondor came about and why they have a steward instead of a king. And, it's this remarkable thing that you have that, then you have the Tale of Years, where now he's got, these timelines where he explains, how all of this Tales of Kings, how they all fit into the grander timeline history of the world. And then, following that, family trees. He's got family trees for all of the hobbits. Where did Bilbo Baggins come from? Who are all of these people? Where did, just how, what are all of these backgrounds of it? And then Shire calendar for use in all years. That Appendix D, Appendix D is the calendar. He's built a calendar for this world. He's gone to the effort of saying, how do they count time? Then we get to Appendix E, writing and spelling, and this is where he really goes into one of his great specialties, because he was a linguistic specialist. And this section is why people can speak Sindarin. This is why Elvish is an invented and yet real language, because he has invented a pronunciation of how you pronounce things in all of these languages that he invented on the way, because he has, at the very least, partially invented the Dwarfish tongue. He's invented 2 languages for the elves, Quechua, which is supposed to be like High Latin, and Sindarin, which is their regular spoken language. He has the concept of Westron, and he makes it very, very clear as he does this that Westron, most of us, we assume that the language that a given book is written in is the language of our fantasy land. That in Star Wars, Galactic Basic is English, if you're watching the original version, relative to, if you're watching a French dub, then Galactic Basic is French. If you're watching a Spanish dub, then Galactic Basic is Spanish. If you are watching a Cantonese dub, then Galactic Basic is Cantonese. And what he's done here is he has literally gone through all of this stuff and then said, by the way, I have translated all of these words from the language that I have imagined and transferred them, anglicized them for the readership, because Pippin and Merry's real names are not Peregrine and Meriadoc, that Bilbo and Frodo, that all of these names are not actually the names that he thought of, because, among other things, name endings that he decided that O and E would be feminine for, would be feminine endings for the hobbits, and that A would tend to be a masculine ending, and he didn't want to confuse his readers, but he had still come up with this. And so you have so much that has gone into this. You have paragraph upon paragraph, page after page after page, just 100 pages of all of these things that have been, that he has tacked on to the end of the book, And it is incredible world building. And this is the thing where the books themselves, the actual story, the text of the novel, that is the tip of the iceberg, but at the end of this book, he gives you a glimpse at all of the iceberg that lies underneath it, and that what he's done is he's said, I have built this world from the ground up, and I know every inch of it, and I'm only showing you this portion that is pertinent to the story, but I do know where everything is. I do know how everybody talks. I do know all of the languages. And it's an incredible feat. I have not read the Silmarillion, but I have been assured by my father, at least, that that is Tolkien's best, because in the Silmarillion, he's not worried about some stupid story. He's just making a giant history encyclopedia of Middle-earth. You know, and this is really the moment, the thing that really shines about this, and the thing that makes this such an example for authors, is not the story. The story is what it is. It's a quest story. It's a hero's tale. It follows the arc of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and all that kind of thing. But what it has that's so different from so many things that may have come before is the sheer scale to which he world built. Because most of us, when we world build, most people, when they invent languages for their novels, they throw together a few words and they, maybe come up with a word that they say, this is the word in that language for a concept we don't have in English, so I'm going to invent a word for it in that language because this would be important to them. Kind of like a variant on how the Inuit have, whatever it is, 100 words for snow, whatever that shtick is. Pardon me, I know that they're not supposed to be called Inuit now, but honestly, I don't remember anymore because there are too many things to remember. Anyways, but there's this whole thing, that languages that have particular things in them that don't come up in other languages, that if it's something that's important to you culturally, you'll have more words for it. Unless you're English, in which case you will just see a language that has a word for something and you will yoink it and say, okay, this is ours now. This is how we get words like avatar in English, is because we went to India and we said, wow, that's a useful word that describes a particular deity-related concept. Yoink. We now have a word for that. You could call it colonialism, but frankly, I call it pragmatism to say somebody's already gone to the effort of inventing a word. Let's not drive ourselves crazy trying to invent our own word, because then we will be French. Because the French are the only people in the world who don't talk about computers. They are the only ones who insisted that they have to have l'ordinateur because, the organization for maintaining the purity of the French language, whatever they're called, it slipped my mind. They had a thing for a while, I don't know if they still have it, where they were like, no, we're not going to use the English word, we're going to make our own Frenchy word for stuff, and then nobody uses it. Like, you talk to Francophones, and, half the time, you have beurre d'arachide for peanut butter, and they still will just say le beurre de peanut, because that's, at least here in Canada, they do that. Because, why would you say arachide when you could say peanut? Because that's, way fewer syllables. Anyways. And then at the end of the edition that I read, they had to redo the index because they had to repaginate this for an ebook version, so the pagination doesn't match the, print version that, happened back in the reset that they were working off of, so they had to redo that. Anyways, I'm not even going to talk about the story because I'm almost out of time, but, you know the story. Frodo throws the ring in, there's some screaming, then Frodo winds up going to the Grey Havens at the end, and that's everything, and I'll see you all next week.